we sort of settled in on this financial product that, I've always had this dream of, and being a lifelong trader, lifelong investor, building my own sort of financial suite was always my dream. And in fact, how I got to get sort of fall in love with JavaScript. I started Basic and Pascal and stuff like that. And, I never programmed JavaScript until I literally got arrested. I mean, then it was the darkest of moments. I turned to JavaScript and I actually had some free time. I was going to fight the government and prepare. And I basically said, let me go back to like an original love. And I very quickly, realized that this was awesome. And I missed it from my youth. So I started to make some little financial programs, and it evolved into this really big suite that we have now. And it's the most fun I've had in a really long time. But in terms of AI, I think the pressure to put AI on everything is sort of like, you know, uh, it's being seen in finance a little bit, in finance software. It still hasn't really been done right. So I hope to do something right there, but we're almost like completely trad like software now. Like I don't think we have any torch in anything we do right now. Like at some point, I do think that we can do some cool stuff with AI, but I feel like the contrived kind of like chat with this, chat with your documents or whatever. It's a little bit too forced. And I do think there's a real huge use for AI in finance. It's just not so obvious. And
Well, so I was watching your kind of live streams, and you gave me a super cool demo of your product, and I guess like for people that are maybe like listening to this and not traders, it like appears to me like it's sort of like this like kind of monster BI tool where you like put up tons of graphs and like tables and stuff, and it seems like you like to have just like zillions of like metrics spread out like all across your screen. And I guess I was like looking at that as like a non-trader and thinking like, I'm not sure that's how I would want to ingest data about my own company. So like, is there something different? Like, are you just really feeding your like ADHD and anxiety as a trader by like putting so much information there, or is it actually like helping you trade better?
it's a really good question. I think that if you walk around a trading desk, like it looks like that, like the people are constantly on the phone. They're like, they're ADHD'd whether they like it or not. And I feel like sifting through lots of securities, all of these things kind of are, to me, very reminiscent of a programmer's job in that if you're going to spend 8 to 10 hours a day coding, you want the exact right command line setup, the right, like even people like get very serious about their Vim setup. Like every little thing's got to be perfect. And I'm not like that, but like, there are some things that I like. And if I'm going to do it for 10 hours a day, I might as well get those little things done right. And I think that financial software is very similar. If you're going to, it's very well known how long bankers spend in the office and stuff like that. But any financial person spending, 10 hours in the office every day, and they are going to look at stocks or bonds or whatever they look at, they're going to do it constantly over and over and over again. And I feel like you have to give them a command line style tool that helps them get that information quickly. And it's going to be a little bit ugly and scattered and all over the place, but that's sort of a feature instead of a bug, because if it looked like, a SaaS site, it would frustrate the investor because they're like, okay, well, I just looked at Apple, but now I want to look at something else. I want it to take like a millisecond. I don't want it to take like refreshing this page or trying to hydrate the page, or just show me the data right away. And I feel like, that's really important to Wall Street. Now, in terms of AI, there's a lot of places where this could help. And I know that a lot of the quants are starting to do work with LLMs. And so we're sort of trying to race to provide those tools too. But I think like the stuff that I've seen, which is like chat with a 10Q document or a 10K document, it can be a little bit simple, but a lot of the times like control F works, and I
But
don't
like,
know that you.
but like, what is a trader doing? Because like, I look at like it's like you're looking at a bunch of graphs and then trying to make some prediction. I mean, that sounds like how are you going to possibly be AI at that? Like, isn't it that like best case scenario for AI to do well?
I think AI trading is going to make quant trading even better and even harder for humans to do well in. I mean, I think that humans have a small edge when it comes to like judging markets, emotional states of like traders, other traders, and things like that. Integrating lots of like disparate pieces of information. Like if you see a little clue about inflation from one company and then another little clue from another company, and you start to connect a narrative that like, okay, maybe inflation's going up. I'm going to do something with bonds or something like that. that's the kind of thing that maybe AI can't see right away. But in terms of like super high frequency trading, the computers have dominated that. Trading the news is something that I'm really interested in. That I know a lot of other like LLM type folks are interested in, whether they're coming from the quant side pointing to the LM side or the LM side pointing to the quant side. The question is, can you have a computer that just reads breaking news really quickly and reacts to it really quickly? And that's one of the products we're working on that I think is going to be really helpful, because you'd be surprised at how much breaking news there is that hangs in limbo, and the market's like still trying to figure out if this information is real or not. The LLM can make that call in a second and then make the trade. And I feel like that's going to be a big game changer. But of course, like all things in finance, everyone will have it within like 6 months or a year. And, you can very quickly react to things. Like just the other day, just today, it was Hims announced that they were going to carry a GLP product, which was going to be good news for Hims. But it sort of took the market like a few minutes to really like digest it, whereas the LM would like just be immediately like, yeah, buy that. And I feel like that is a product that certain big firms are making, but nobody's making it for the little guy. And I'd like to make those types of products for even, I mean, firms too, but also the little guy. And there's all kinds of other little nuances in finance that could really benefit from this. Traders themselves, I mean, they've mostly been wiped out by computers. I feel like there's still hedge funds out there with humans. Uh, they pale in comparison usually to the quant hedge funds. We're also considering, how do we bring quant tools to people too?
But
Because
wait,
the
are you
average,
trading? Like it looks like on your live stream you're
yeah,
trading. Is that so? You
yeah.
you have you yourself have not been wiped out by
No, I think there are still people that can do it. I think that it's a fool's errand. I mean, it's sort of like Kasparov versus Deep Blue. Like you could see the writing on the wall even years ago, and today, like they're still good chess players, but it's really hard to play, Deep Blue. And I feel like you're going to have a time and place where, like, say, private equity or venture capital, like these are places that are like not, AI is not going to compete with for another 10 or 20, 30, 40, 50 years, maybe. Somebody's going to come up with a startup that competes with yours and say, who are these guys? Is it that guy I met at MIT, or is it that guy I know from Anthropic? And it's like, no, it's a fucking machine. It's an LLM. And it's that would be, really, really ironic, because you sit there like, let's unplug it or something, but the reality is, like, the markets have always been competitive, and I feel like there are some people that believe, they often trick themselves into thinking that they have an edge. And one of my goals is to help people see that signing up for Robinhood, putting your weekly paycheck into it, and like trying to guess that this stock is going to go up or down is not something that is probably something you should do. And is there a way to do it a little bit more intelligently, that is less risky and maybe more rewarding, is one of the things we're trying to think about. But I agree that like trying to make trading software or software for research analysts in 2025, where the research analyst has kind of become a dinosaur, and a thing of the past, is something that, like, certainly, like for us, like we understand that like Wall Street's completely changed. It used to be cigar smoking, blue blood sort of frat bro type environment in the 90s. And now it's mostly quants, IMO winners, stuff like that, and I feel like you have to make tools for those guys. And so we are sort of trying to get there. Um, and I think we will, but I also think like there Wall Street hasn't collapsed yet. There's still sort of people doing that stuff. And you also have a lot of other things you could do with this type of framework. Like Bloomberg is a really interesting company, where like they're the time series data company, and they do it really well for stocks, but they should kind of stop doing it for other things. And I think that you could actually look at tons of unstructured or structured data and render it more easily, and take the unstructured data, and Google and LLMs can do that better. But if you know what data you're looking at and you look at it every day, like we can graph that. It doesn't have to be a stock or a bond. It can be, weather, or it could be, some other shipment data or something. And so like I hope that, we can sort of show that stuff. It's working really well. We have millions of dollars of revenue now. I'm really lucky. It was really hard sort of finding PMF. We tried three different things, and none of them sort of connected. The first one didn't connect at all with anything. The next one sort of connected a little bit with users, but not revenue. The next one, the TTS product, connected a little bit with revenue and a little bit with users. But this product's just sort of, gone off the charts. And
Well,
I think,
I don't know, the thing I admire about your product from, I guess, like one entrepreneur to another is, I think, very similar to weights and biases. I think we were kind of building this really specialized thing for an audience we really understood, and more than understood, I think we like loved them. Like we kind of came from that, and like really wanted to make something good. And I can kind of see from your live stream, like you're doing the same thing. Like you are like a user of your product. You kind of know the people using it. You have a very idiosyncratic UI that clearly comes from like a lot of like caring about it being a good product for your audience. Like you really feel that in your product. So I just really admire that from afar, although I'm absolutely not a trader.
Yeah, I mean, this is what Toby said. I saw a video the other day where Toby Lutke said something like, the only way you're going to ever make a great product is if you really care about it, you really love it. And I feel like, we probably should have seen that all along because I love investing, I love trading, and every little detail, is something that I obsess about because I know what I would feel if somebody was selling me this software. I'd say, no, I don't want to use this anymore if it's going to have this thing there or that thing's going to be wrong. And the developers don't always understand that. We actually try to make or find people, or encourage all of our team to invest, and so they really understand. Like, maybe not more than 10 minutes a day sometimes, but at least a little bit of market activity, so they can sort of understand what the user's going through. So I feel like it's a really amazing area because traders have money. They love spending money on software, and it's a really kind of remarkable, awesome thing. So we sort of sat around the first year or two of our company, sort of meandering, and I don't regret it. But now that like our revenue is just going crazy, and we're hiring like crazy and all that stuff, I'm really lucky and happy that we're sort of hitting that. But I also now have to start thinking about harder things like, well, how do we 10x our revenue, and then how do we make products that people really, really like and really, are valuable for them. I think again, the stuff like Robinhood and other companies, they help the user to gamble, and I want to help our users really actually make money. And it's something that's I'm pretty passionate about, and we'll see if I can sort of get that to work. We still haven't actually released our product, so it's all been sort of in this kind of weird beta stage. So one day we'll tweet about it or put it in the Wall Street Journal or whatever, and it'll sort of hopefully 10x or 20x then. But for now, it's like this is actually very hard software to make. And the
Do you want to put a link in our notes or tell
yeah,
us
yeah,
where
sure,
to?
that's fine. But trying to get, because I saw Perplexity was trying to do a finance thing, and I think that Kamath sort of like made a wisecrack about it, that just showing one or two charts doesn't replace a Bloomberg, and that I do think that's true. It's really hard to sort of like negotiate with the Frankfurt stock exchange, and then Osaka and Tokyo, and like herd all these cats and get all these vendors and like write tests to make sure that if any of that data is late or something like that, you do some emergency thing. And like, it's mind-boggling how complex this machine is. And that's sort of a moat in a way. And the UI, I think, is where things really shine. I mean, just it's Vim for finance in a way. And I think that's like, to anybody who's stuck sitting down like in an office just hacking away at finance, it's code in a different language. And this is the sort of like thing you need. So I'm really lucky and happy. And again, I had a lot of patience for investors to sort of like find our footing. And now we're in the same grind that like everybody that gets the PMF is, which is what's the revenue, what's the growth, and how fast can you grow. And every month is going to be a challenge
It's
to
more
do that.
fun searching for PMF, I'll tell you. It's better.
Yeah, I think like looking at like the Levels of the world, I actually tried to buy a company from Levels. I called him. I sent him a DM, and he said, "Oh, great, Martin, I love your stuff. I'm a fan." I said, "That's great. Give me your number. Let me give you a call." And he said, "No, I'm too what are the words? I'm grinding right now, or like I'm too locked in." And I was like,
Nice.
I'm trying to buy your company. I didn't even say anything. I was just like, all right, man, let's stay locked in. But I think these solopreneurs are really something. I mean, I think that you're going to see more and more of these. And like, we may get our first solopreneur IPO or something someday where somebody's like, yeah, I built this all by myself. I built a whole SaaS company, I own 100% of the equity, and it's a multi-billion-dollar company. And I think
Totally.
we're going to see that, more and more thanks to companies like yours and others like that have built this amazing ecosystem. You can never do it for our company, by the way, so don't even try. But the complexity is just
You need at least 10 people or however many you have.
exactly.